Okay, so this is if current min is set as false, so that's all that stuff. Alright, I was looking at this wrong. So it's going to get its space along the axis here. And what this is going to do is, normally if this was not set, we wouldn't do anything. Otherwise, what we're going to do is... Three v three with 5 bots. Just because the bots are actually playing the game as opposed to just punching people the whole time? So what we're supposed to do with this is... we're supposed to change our X alignment result size and offset. So what are we doing? We're grabbing our aspect ratio height, which is 1 divided by 1. So our aspect ratio height yeah. So the problem is the children are screwed up, is what's going on? Oh, alright. So what's going on is, it's not that the size box is fucked up, it's that these other boxes... the Y coordinate is getting screwed up. The X is fine, the Y is getting screwed. Because what should be happening is... yeah, here we go. Alright. I think I know how to fix this then. We need to know the alignment. Okay, so if this is a fill, then yeah, all right. I don't think we want to change the size of the object unless it's a fill. Otherwise, it's going to stay the same size, right? But we want to change the offset or something. Anyway. So if it's aligned to the bottom, then all right, so the top bar is basically we want the max height minus the new height divided by 2. Bar height is this guy. All right, so order of operations. All right, So the offset needs to be what is this Y alignment result? Offset size? So that offset, I guess we need to plus equal the bar height. If it's a fill, so alright, if it should scale properly already. So that should change all that, but basically we just need to change that offset, I think. So what about the size? What would the size do? I mean, the size should remain what it is. We're just adding the... So do we want to do anything about the size? Like we could make it continually smaller and smaller. Let's just not change the size right now. So the size is going to go all the way down. And we'll see what that looks like. It's as though the parent objects are aligning the child objects, which is probably what's happening. So in order to make a screen, you have to do some pretty screwy stuff, but as long as it's consistent in how screwy it is, then we'll be okay. I think they're getting shoved off the top of the screen for the aligns. Holy shit. Is that actually working? What? Oh my god. It does what it's supposed to. It worked. What in the hell? That's great. That means we could actually use UMG widgets for these things. Alright, so now I need to fix the max resolution. Alright, so if it's left, we need to move the object right for the left bar. And you move the object left for the right bar. Because we already have the scaling on some of these guys is what it looks like. So this was what, X alignment result? It might do it. It might actually solve our UI problems. Hello, Dark Anturian. Sorry I didn't see your post earlier. I am working on, I'm getting locking the aspect ratio for UMG widgets, which is not supported by Unreal. Basically, when the aspect ratio of the camera changes to a certain field of view, we need to add black bars to the top and bottom or left and right, which we've had forever, and our current WebKit UI stuff does scale properly to fit, but we need to switch to something other than the WebKit UI stuff because it's not performing enough in game, so I'm trying to see if I can get UMG stuff to work with the aspect ratio stuff. That way we'll be able to use UMG, which is much more performant for the in-game UI, since I'll be starting on the actual in-game UI for mission work, basically, is the next step. So if I can get us on UMG for that, it's kind of the right time to do it. And as you can see, it appears that it works. Because we scale up and then we scale to the right. So let's see if it actually does it. Because if this works, then Jesus, I just solved some of the problems that I didn't think I'd be able to solve very easily. And that it was just such a simple thing is actually pretty awesome. So it appears that our width stuff isn't quite working. It appears that there's something wrong with it. Like, you'd expect this to not be outside of here, that these guys should be added more into the middle. So let me take a look at this. So we've got our size box. Maybe it's supposed to be 2.2 for these guys. I mean 2.1 instead. See if it's something simple like that. Maybe that I just am oh yeah, I'm right. I'm right. The aspect ratio needs to be different here. This guy needs to be, if the aspect ratio is 2 to 1, yeah, okay. So this needs to be like 2000. All right, let me just see if we can mess with these scale boxes. So if I just put this as 1000 by 1000, nothing's going to happen, right? So what I should do here is 1000 by 1000. No, it needs to be I should just keep it simple. So if we're going to do an aspect ratio of 2, I guess it should be 2.2 or 2.0. It should be 2 by 1, and then we're going to aspect ratio of 2.2. Nah, sounds like we have to actually... We could do 1680 by 1050. With a max aspect ratio of 2.2. So what's going to happen here is these objects are going to be pretty big. These things are still acting like the aspect ratio is still 2, even if it's 2.2. Did I... There must be something else here that is wrong. Alright, so the left side there should be pretty close. You know what? The UI is wrong too. Like the actual UI that we've got is off on the EX. It's acting like it's supposed to be 2.2. So let me see. It's in globals.js. I didn't notice that. It's like, looks like it may be that I had multiple things screwed up. Alright, well, we can use UMG for everything. That's really good. That's really good, actually. It means the aspect ratio stuff also is probably fixed for the WebKit UI that I have basically scaling itself out. So this fixes all the things. Looks like the fix for things actually broke some of the UI scaling aspect ratio stuff, which is not a big deal. It looks like it kind of is weird, but it doesn't screw things up too bad. Alright, let's take a look at the scaling for this thing in game. Make sure that the scaling is working properly for what we would expect. Alright, so that is I want 1080 by so it needs to be higher. I'm just making sure that the comparisons here are going to work, that I'm messing with. This is 1650 by 1028, and it looks, I guess I can just scale my monitor here. Yeah, that looks right. So, okay. So what would I want to do with these actors? I'd want to make them smaller. So if I had a basic clock here, I could change the scale of it. So we could do like 0.8 by 0.8. and they'd look like that in the game, which is exactly what they look like here. Man, alright, that actually gives me a lot of hope that we can get some of this shit working and looking a lot better inside of Unreal. Because these are actual UMG widgets, and the reason that these things got scaled that way is because when I made them, I believe I made them centered. So if I go to my test content and I go to my UI for the basic clock, I take this guy, and instead of having the position X be negative, I can base it off of the top left-hand corner of this object. If I go over here, these guys are okay. Now that's interesting. Why is that? So why is this image cut off? Like, we have the size and everything else, right? (800 by 237). So the question is, why is this getting clipped here? See, it has to do with this widget itself. It's gonna be this guy, so why? This doesn't matter at all. The alignment? Does the alignment matter? Okay, so the alignment matters. So if we have the alignment of 0, 0, and 0, 0, then it gets clipped. So why? What's putting this at 0, 0? Is this anchor stuff? There's nothing there for this thing now. Okay, so if we have a top left-hand anchor, when we scale these guys, but how do we scale it from the bottom, like the top left of the object, as opposed to something else? Or is scale always computed from the middle of the object? So if you want to scale an object up, you also have to do the translation yourself. It's actually not the worst thing ever, to be honest. You know, if you want to scale something, it just scales it from the middle, and as long as that's consistent, that's fine, because then you can just, you know, move it back up to the top. If we add another image in here, does it change how this thing works? So yeah, it's just putting it in the middle regardless. So it's figuring out the middle of the drawn content, and then it's putting it there. And multiple images will do that. So it doesn't matter how you align your widget. It's going to go off the center of the drawn content, which isn't awful, but it means that you can't make everything in isolation. You're basically saying the middle is the middle of the object, which is fine. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So this is our process for adding things to a widget. Basically, we'd have something here. Do we have text? Okay, so we can actually make these things in C++ then. And oh man, alright. Well, I wish I had known about this last year, that it actually worked last year. But of course, in order to get there, I had to know all the aspect ratio stuff, and none of that was supported. So if you want to add a widget, you go grab a widget, you drag it onto the canvas panel, which will add it in there. We then wrap it with a scale box, and then we wrap it again with a size box. The size box needs to have the overrides on it. So 2 and 1, and then for your UI element, you want to base it off of some quadrant. Alright, it looks like our scale is wrong when we get small like that. It's slapping up in the top. The scale is, yeah, okay. Alright. So it's basically when we don't have fill as the thing. It's when we have horizontal and vertical line middle. We don't want to change the scales. Let's see what that does. vertically fill. Why is it vertically fill with that up there? Okay, here we are. Y offset center. Yeah, we're just we need to move the object down for the top bar, I believe. This needs to be a plus. And then, yeah, so we move it down and we move it to the right. Actually, it looks like what needs to happen is we need to move this thing we need to move the object up by half the bar height. I think the same thing here. It needs to be bar width divided by 2.0f. And it needs to be a subtract. It needs to be recentered, I guess. There is stuff in this folder. I swear. Alright, that looks wrong. It's a vertical alignment. I guess it's just, I guess it's just that I had it correct, but the issue was I was just moving it twice instead of once, so it was looking like I had it 4 times instead of 2 times. In some ways, it's kind of better that we don't have a lot of complicated crap that we can do, because it'll keep people on task.